Good day, everybody. Welcome back to another episode here. I managed to come down on Sunday, or on Monday again now, and get, it looks like a lot more done, but from the last video, we've heat wrapped the exhaust, as you've seen at the end of the last video. So I've fitted that to the car. That's all, the wastegate's in place, etc. I'll show you that in a minute. I wasn't happy with the torque that I was getting on one of the subframe bolts, one of the front subframe bolts. I'll put a picture in the screen here. You'll see that subframe bolt there. So I bought, I've got loads of helicoil kits, got about 10 of them in different thread pitches and sizes. But what's the chances we didn't have one that was the right one for that? So I bought, it was M12 by 1.25. I'll get it in a minute. But yeah, we thread repaired that, and I'll put some pictures of the screen. I didn't get it on video, but thread repaired that front subframe bolt. So the subframe's on now, exhaust's on, all bolted up. The back gasket that you remember from the last video, that's in place. So everything's done and complete underneath there now. What else did we do? We've ordered I'll go over it, but we've ordered the boost control solenoid lines. I was trying to decide whether I was going to do it in AN4 or just in vacuum line. I didn't want to spend another 100 quid on lines and fittings, etc. So I've done it in vacuum line. I'll put the links up of what I've ordered there, just little fuel clips and stuff in the screen. Trying to think what else we've done. I'll whip the bonnet open and we'll have a look. Let me pull you in and I'll show you how it's looking in there. So yeah, starting to look like a car again now, isn't it? It's all, well, not all back together, I say. Still got the power steering pump and the alternator to go in there, but I'm waiting on the fuel line Y splitter to put the fuel lines back in, and then also injectors, which I've not bought yet. Think they might be here in the next couple of weeks. ID 1700 Bosch Motorsport ones, but yeah, the injector dynamics. So yeah, but everything else is in. We've got the lambdas routed for the. We've got I'll move out of the way. Lambda in for the ECU, lambda in for the AEM on the dash. I've routed that all. Cable tied it nicely around there. I should have got this in black, but oh well, it stands out a bit now as well, but oh well, it doesn't matter, it's strong, another good. Crinkle coated do you remember me saying about this? That's all crinkle coated. The lid's ready to go in up there, in the cabinet, I'll show you that. In there is all my fittings, because as I was saying, I was going to do the boost control solenoid in AN. So I was going to do it all in these heat wrapped, you know, AN4, but we've not. So there's the crinkle coated, you've seen that already, that's ready to go on. There's all the fuel lines ready to go on. We're just waiting for the AN6 to AN8 splitter, and then this line's getting changed to AN8. We've got the AN8 line, actually, the PTFE line ready to go there. Yeah. Oh, it's not PTFE, it's rubber. No, oh well. That means I managed to get some of that. So, the other thing I wanted to talk about is the fuel filter. So from the last video, I don't know if you remember, one of the lads commented on the bottom, and he was saying about the paper element fuel filter blocking up his fuel injectors. So I've done a bit of research into it now, and I've basically, one sec. Yeah, I've done a bit of research into it now and basically come to the conclusion that, as the lad said, we need to get a microglass 6 micron, you know, good quality fuel filter. So I'll put it up in the screen here, but we're going for the Torx one. They do, Fuel Lab do one, Radium do one, but Torx is on the rest of the card, you know, quite a lot throughout the car. So I'm gonna go with that and put a Torx one on. So I'll put a picture up here, but they're about 100 quid, I think they are. But obviously, when you're spending nearly £1,000 on fuel injectors, you want to be 100 quid. You know, it's reasonable to protect the fuel filters. So yeah, other than that, everything's heat wrapped. I've got the turbo blanket on. It's following me now, but you can see it there. Yeah, all the front ends on, radiators on, intercoolers on. I'll put it back on the ramp in a minute and get it up in the air. I just want to talk about the wiring first, but I'll get it back up in the air so you can have a look underneath, see what it all looks like without the splitter on, the exhaust and the wastegate and all that stuff. Yeah, that's it up here, I think. I'll just show you that little elbow's turned up, you know, the 1/8 MPT elbow for the fuel pressure sensor. I'll show you that. Yeah, that's what I was showing you the other week. Just this little elbow here. Let me turn it around a little bit. Yeah, that's enabled me to put, exactly as I said, the mechanical gauge and then the pressure sensor. So it's all very tight in there. As you can see, we've got the breather system to go in yet, and the fuel line to go on. So they are offset a little bit, you know, so they're going to have a little bit of room. But yeah, oil pressure sensors in. You've already seen that. Still room for headlights are in as well. They weren't in last time. There's still room to get the alternator belt on and off as well. You know, like a little gap there. It's all tight, but yeah. The other thing I'm going to do today, before we go into wiring, where's it gone? There it is, in one of these trophies. They do these. We've got a bit of a guest appearance. Well, one of my mates' cars is coming next week. He's going where the trailer's going there, but I've got a few bits to do to his car. But I'll show you that next week. He's basically got one of these in an alloy tank. So I'm going to be getting one for this. I've got to fit it to his, but basically I've got to make like a bit of a bracket up, and it's going to go there. The trouble is when you put them small ones on, they overflow, and then the system ends up being low on coolant, and then you don't check it when you're in the middle of a track day, and then you blow your head gaskets. So we don't want that. So we want a nice big expansion tank, overflow tank, sorry, going in there. I've ordered the radiator. I thought I was only going to be able to get a 10-inch fan in there, but I can get a 12-inch fan. Just 335 mil, I think it is. Just goes, it's very close to the top, but we've got 61 mil, I think it comes out from in the centre there, and then 28 mil, I think, at the sides. So it's just going to clear it. So yeah, that'll be in the next video as well. I'll be putting the radiator in and wiring it up onto the original multi-plug block bits. Yeah, what else did I want to... Let me just put the camera on a stand so I'm not carrying it about, and we'll talk about the wiring. So yeah, wiring wise, we've got oil pressure sensor here. We've got 12 volt, these are 12 volt sensors. Some are 5 volt, some are 12 volt, these are 12. So we've got, this is what we're going to do today. We've got a 12 volt feed and earth. Where's the earth? Under here somewhere. 12 volt feed and an earth, so that's going back to the auxiliary connector what I showed you last week. I'll put a picture in the screen again, but yeah. Then the only other wiring we've got is I'm just looking there, I thought I stripped a bit, is the green signal wire which sends the 5 volt reference signal back to the ECU. So on the pin out, we've got, I'm guessing here again, but I might get it right, we've got there's a connector block, B84 connector block, which is on this diagram that I'll put up, it's connector block C. That's got all the AVCS wiring or TGV wiring, you know, on the WRX loom. I think it's B13, it's the bottom left-hand connector pin. I'll put a picture of it up. That's got the fuel pressure signal going back into it, because that's one of my spare auxiliaries. And then we've got, no, that's E13, sorry. It's E, it's connector block E on that chart. So connector block B on this table has got the, on B13, pin B13's got the oil pressure, and B23's got the oil temperature. That's just off the top of my head. But what I'm meaning there is they're the 5-volt reference signals where they're going back into the ECU, because they're the spare auxiliary ports. So I'll show you what I've done in respect of scaling, sensor scaling. So I'll show you, I'll go to the laptop in a bit and I'll show you the scaling on the dash, because we've gone for the oil temp sensor, we've gone oil temp sensor to the ECU, and then we've just teed in from the dash with the just with a scaled, I think 0 to 5 volt scaling on them temp sensors, but the pull-up's coming from the ECU. So yeah, I'll show you that up and running, and then I'll show you pin allocation within the Syvecs ECU in the calibration, because I haven't flashed that onto the ECU yet. I've written the file, scaled it, and I'll show you how I've done that, and then pin assignment, and then some of the trips and stuff, and scaling wise, linearization within SCAL. So yeah, that's about it, I think, as far as everything under here. It's intake. I need to do an intake. I'm going to make that and go down there, but I've just messaged Andy about want to try and get some 0.6mm or some 0.8mm wall thickness stainless steel, just because it's for the intake. I don't want to do it out of alloy. Andy's welder's going back today as well, so we don't have the option of doing alloy anymore. I'm only getting a DC TIG, so I'll only be able to do DC. But I'll take you into the car in there under the footwell if I can. It's pretty tight for space in there, but we'll take you in there and I'll show you the wiring that I was just talking about. It's not tidy in here. What a mess. I've replaced this multi-plug. I'll show you the old one because it was all butchered from back in the day before I knew how to open these things. I got a bit excited with it, the old connector, shall we say. I'll put a picture up in the screen for anyone, if it helps anyone, on how to take pins out of these multi-plugs, because I found it useful. You just pull this little arm out, it only comes out maybe a couple of mil, and then this diagram that I'll put up here, you can see on there on this first diagram bit, but it shows you how to remove each pin. You gotta like put it in up and then pull it down like that, but you'll see anyway, you see on the picture. As you can see, last night we had a power cut because it's had storm, don't know which one it is, Eurus or whatever. Let me just grab the, I don't know where that's gone. Yeah, I don't actually know where that's gone. I'm looking for the auxiliary connector, but anyway, irrelevant. So we're talking pin, where were we at here? So yeah, I just had a little look at that. Well, it's in my notes anyway, but yeah, I had a little look to refresh myself. But last night, as I say, we had a power cut, so no soldering. These are the green signal wires. So we've got, this is connector block B84. You'll see it on this chart, it's the smallest one, the middle one. But pin E13, which is the bottom right, as you can see there, the yellow and green wire, that's the factory SCI wire, that one. That green sensor signal wire there is going back, it's ready to go through to the bay, to go to the fuel pressure 5-volt signal wire. Then we've got going into this wire here, we've got, this is oil pressure, and this is going into connector block B13. So this is, I think this is connector block, I can't remember what it is on the chart, but you'll see it. They're in order of size. So I think this is connector block B on this table from GTI. I don't know what the number is for it in the Subaru diagram layout. I can't remember. It'll be some obscure number, but as you can see, pin 13 on there. So we're going 1 on this top, that red wire there, 1 to 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can see there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So then we're going to go 10, 11, 12, 13 is the blue wire. So that is going, I've cut that because it goes to a dead end on this connector block. Let me show you. Sorry if I'm rambling, but you'll know what I'm, you know what I'm on about if you're following me. That wire there, that blue wire, it doesn't go through, it just caps there, dead end. So you could go from there if you want, but I wanted to keep the loom neat and tidy going through the bulkhead, you know, with the power and the ground wires. So yeah, that one is for oil pressure. So there's a green signal wire going through, nice and easy. Just got to solder that now and heat shrink it and put a nice fancy loom around it, some of this stuff. This one is the wire coming in from the bay, from the oil temp sensor. So as I say, we've got some heat wrap and ready to go on there, you know, for when we solder this. That is going to the dash. So that goes to the, one of them dashes. Goes to the dash, and then this other white wire here goes to pin 23 on that B connector block. So it's the bottom row there, pin 23, and this is for oil temperature in the ECU. So I'll get all these soldered up. The last thing I wanted to show you was the sensor for the what I've put in on the AccuSump. I'll show you that in a sec. Because we've already wired that into, that just goes straight into the dash, it's not going to the ECU, but we've sent it obviously power and ground from the auxiliary outputs from the ECU. So yeah, I'll show you the next thing after we've got these. You don't need to see me soldering. Well, I'll solder these up, all be neat and tidy and tie it back up, and then we'll get the laptop plugged in, and I'll show you how I did the scaling. But yeah, I'll show you this little bit now anyway. Yeah, excuse the wiring under there, it's a bit of a mess. But do you remember that little sensor, that little MPT plug that I got? So that's just going, this just coming from the AccuSump air side. We've got that going to the pressure sensor, and then that just goes straight to this gauge here. But and then, as I say, the signal wire that goes from that sensor is scaled into the dash, and then the power and ground wires, these two, they come from the auxiliary output from the dash. So we've got, I did have gauges here, boost, oil temp and oil pressure, some stack gauges, but I thought it's doing it there, it's doing it in the ECU, we don't need it there as well. So yeah, I sold them, release, you know, free up a little bit of funds, and then I've just got a little bit of carbon to go in there. But yeah, I shall, oh, that's a bit of a tight squeeze. We shall go to, we'll go to the laptop now. I'll get these done and scaled on the, soldered in the car, and then we'll go to the laptop and show you the scaling. We've done all the wiring for we've done all the soldering underneath the dash over there. So the final part now is I've just come over to the laptop. I paste called, basically I downloaded the map file and I've been working on it at home, and I've paste called, I've gone load calibration, and I've loaded my calibration in that I've been working on at home, which is just a copy of this calibration, but with this what I'm going to show you now already done. So, but I'm going to show you what I've done. So we'll back out of it all and go back to the screen that you would get when you first open the Syvecs. So this is what you get when you're connected. We're currently connected. It says at the top corner there, connected and in sync. So we want to open the calibration. The first thing I did, I went down to I/O configuration, pin assignments, and then I've assigned the oil pressure, the fuel pressure and the oil temperature to the different pins that I've pinned out in the ECU that you've seen. So we're going to go and I'll give them a place now and tell them where I've wired them to. So we go Engine oil pressure, we've assigned it to pin AN07, which is a 5 volt or a thermistor type of a connection. So we've got a 5 volt input going into it. So that one's that. Engine oil temperature, this is a thermistor type, but it can be 5 volt or thermistor type as it says. The ones red on this list here are the analog inputs that I've got used, and then the white ones are the spare ones. So there's 2 spare ones left, and then the KT plus would be the K-type thermocouple, which is built onto the board, I believe, for EGT, onboard EGT. So I've allocated that to AN08. Anyway, that's engine oil temperature, and then we've got fuel pressure sensor. Also, we've done that to AN06, which is again a 5 volt thermistor type connection. We could have either. I've got it connected to a 5 volt. The only thing is, as I was saying before, some inputs don't have pull-up resistors that you can enable on them, like the engine oil temperature needs a pull-up. Oil pressure and the fuel pressure just need 5 volt inputs, so we could use, for example, AN08, 10 or 11 or 12, but we've used the thermistor type ones. Yeah, that's how I've done it when I looked through the wiring diagram. But anyway, they're all enabled now, so to speak, on the pin assignments. So we can come out of that. We can go now into sensors, and we can linearize the sensors. So we've gone into engine oil pressure initially. Input configuration is 5 volts. This will be default set from Syvecs. I've altered the default voltage high because my sensor reads right up to 5 volts. Some sensors don't go up that high, but part of my scaling is 5 volts, so I don't want it to think if it got to the top of the scaling that it was default error, and then it would go through its limp mode procedures and put it in limp mode and whatever. So I've just upped it from 4.9 to 5 volts. Default low is, I've left that as it was because my scaling doesn't go down that low. On pressure, all the rest are the same. Linearization, now this is my own linearization because I've gone off what the manufacturer's given me, which is resistance. So I've calculated the voltage from the total resistance. You know, obviously the variable resistance is the sensor. Actually, I don't even have the fixed resistor in this because I don't have a pull-up. But anyway, I know what the scaling is, so I've calculated the voltage from the scaling, and then I've input this into the Syvecs to be able to get a linear. It's easy on oil pressure. You only need 2 points, but it's a linear on this type of oil pressure sensor, should I say? But anyway, it's a linear curve. So that's done. That's done as far as oil pressure, and then I've gone into oil trip, and I've just set up what I want it to do. So I want to stop the engine if it goes below these pressures, you know, at these RPMs. So I changed this as well. I changed it to 3.5 bar just because of the AccuSump setup, and yeah, it's fine. So next one we'll do is oil temperature. So in the oil temperature, exactly the same thing. Input configuration I've got as a thermistor this time because that's what the type of sensor is. Linearization, I've scaled my own linearization, again exactly the same way, but this time I calculated it by calculating the total resistance as per what the manufacturer's given me. He's given me resistance values at set temperatures. So that's what I've done here. I've calculated voltage from total resistance. It's a real simple equation, but yeah. So that's that. Again, I've done warm-up time. Warm-up temperature 50 degrees. So it'll be in limp mode until it gets to 50 degrees from that sensor. And then what I want it to do, trip action wise, would be stop engine if it got over. I've just set this to 250 because I don't want it to be stopping the engine under any circumstances due to oil temp, to be honest. But yeah, so that's those two done. And then the final one is fuel pressure, which is that one there. We've got this set, so you can set it whether you want it relative or absolute. It's set to relative. and the relative fuel pressure reference, manifold pressure. Then I've got input configuration is 5 volts, same as the oil pressure sensor. Up to that to 5 volts because it's the same sensor. And then the linearization is the same as the oil pressure because it's the same sensor. So then we've got trip, what we want it to do. Trip action would be limp mode if we have any differentials in, I've not even got it switched on, but you can switch it on to, if you get any dips in relative fuel pressure, it can put it in limp mode, but we'll sort that. We don't need to do that now. So next up, we'll go into, I'm crouched down here, my knees are killing, so I'm trying to hurry up with this, but we've gone into calibration switches, then we've gone down to engine trips, and we've turned on all of these. So we've turned on engine oil pressure, engine trip enable, which means that it will trip, you know, if it gets lower than any of those pressures at those given RPMs that I said earlier. Same with the temperature and same with the fuel pressure. So they're on, and yeah, that's it, I think. As far as Syvecs goes, I'm not going to go into what I've changed on my ignition fueling, and we'll do that when we go into the mapping over the coming weeks when we've got it started and that, but I'm just trying to think if there's anything. No, that's it. So we'll just go into, we'll go into the dash next, and I'll show you the scaling in the dash that I've done in there as well. So yeah, this is the dash software now. It's a Race Technologies Dash 2 Pro. So I've just read just to make sure I'm editing the right programming that I've done. I've read what was on the dash now, so I'm going to go into here, analog inputs, and then we're going to go. These are all the calibrations that I've made. You know, the scaling calibrations for all the various sensors that go in. So, but we're going to go oil temperature here. So we're going to double click that. No, we're not going to double click that. We're going to double click on the actual calculation. So we want to generate an equation from a table. Let me just back out. Engine oil temperature, yeah. So click that, generate an equation from a table, and then here I'm going to input voltage and then temperature in Celsius here. So I'm just going to, it's on my phone, and I'm recording on my phone. So I'm just going to look and input the data off my phone here that I've got, you know, the same as what I've put into the Syvecs, and then I'll be back. Yeah, so there you go. That's all the exact same data as what I've got in the Syvecs. Output voltage, and then the output that the dash should display in Celsius for the voltage that it's receiving. And that's as simple as that. So we'll go OK on that, OK, and when it's decided to work, then we'll send the configuration to the dash. I'll probably bring some warnings up telling me something or the other. It's pretty slow, this. It's probably my computer. Configured successfully. So we shall make a save. We'll save that. Save configuration. Lastly, I just wanted to show you underneath the card, you know, without the splitter on, so you can see everything. So yeah, there it all is. Intercooler's on. Nice little titanium bolts there. Oil cooler's in place. It's not got the lines on it yet because I'm changing the oil cooler. I'm waiting for one to arrive. Wastegate pipe's there. Wastegate pipe, nicely fit in there. And that radiator pipe on with a little extension piece. Boost pipes all going through the bodywork there. And then on this side, that's the total extent of the hot side boost pipe. It just comes down and goes round to the intercooler. Yeah, that's it. So it routes, the exhaust. And the subframe's all in and bolted up now. You'll have seen that on the last one anyway, but that's the bolt that I had to thread repair. I wasn't happy with it. I couldn't get, it's 140 Newton meters I think, and I could only get 120 on it. just didn't feel right. So I took it out and drilled the thread out and replaced it. But yeah, it's wrong way again. It's nice and snug on there, certainly snug. It's yeah, very tight. Yeah, it's, I'm happy with how it's turned out. There's that little rubber mount as well. I don't think I've shown that since I've done it, but just welded onto Andy's subframe, and then I welded a little bracket onto there. So yeah, V-band just clears the prop shaft as well, you know, with it going that way just for a bit more ground clearance. And then there's that gasket I was talking about, the little cheaper gasket, and then the other hanger, you've seen that already. So now all we've got is a twin cradle to go on here, so for the twin fuel pumps, that manifold thing I was showing you. I've been priming, you know, every time I prime the, you know, when I do a device program on the Syvecs, it pumps fuel out of there, because obviously I didn't want it in the bay, because nothing's connected, so it just spray out everywhere, but yeah. That's it. Good old catalytic converter back there, as far back as I can get it, so that it doesn't restrict any power, so to speak. There's a little look under, but yeah, that's it. I won't go on anymore. It's as soon as the lines turn up now, we're going to be firing her up. But yeah, that'll do from me. I've got to go to work now, so yeah, take it easy. Tune into the next episode. See you in a bit.